very prominent man. I'm honored to be allowed to drive with you. Of course, I'm not accustomed to associating with society people like you, so I don't know how to act in such exalted circles." Thus Miss Sonntag talked all the way down to Healey Hanson's. To her jibes he wanted to reply, "Oh, go to the devil," but he never quite nerved himself to do that. Reasonable comment. He was resenting the existence of the whole bunch. He had heard Tanis speak of darling Carrie and Min Sonntag. "She's so clever you'll adore her." But they had never been real to him. He had pictured Tanis as living in a rose-tinted vacuum, waiting for him, free of all the complications of a Floral Heights. When they returned he had to endure the patronage of the young soda clerks. They were as damply friendly as Miss Sonntag was dryly hostile. They called him "Old Georgie," and shouted, "Come on now, sport, shake a leg." Boys in belted coats, pimply boys as young as Ted and as flabby as chorus men, but powerful to dance and to mind the phonograph and smoke cigarettes and patronize Tanis. He tried to be one of them. He cried, "Good work, Pete," but his voice creaked. Tanis apparently enjoyed the companionship of the dancing darlings. She bridled to their bland flirtation and casually kissed them at the end of each dance. Babbitt hated her for the moment. He saw her as middle-aged. He studied the wrinkles in the softness of her throat, the slack flesh beneath her chin. The taut muscles of her youth were loose and drooping. Between dances she sat in the largest chair, waving her cigarette, summoning her callow admirers to come and talk to her. "She thinks she's a bloomin' queen," growled Babbitt. She chanted to Miss Sonntag, "Isn't my little studio sweet?" "Studio rats! It's a plain old maid and chow dog flat. Oh, God, I wish I was home. I wonder if I can't make a getaway now." His vision grew blurred, however, as he plied himself to Healey Hanson's raw but vigorous whisky. He blended with the bunch. He began to rejoice that Carrie Nork and Pete, the most nearly intelligent of the nimble youths, seemed to like him, and it was enormously important to win over the surly older man who proved to be a railway clerk named Fulton Bemis. The conversation of the bunch was exclamatory, high-colored, full of references to people whom Babbitt did not know. Apparently they thought very comfortably of themselves. They were the bunch, wise and beautiful and amusing. They were bohemians and urbanites, accustomed to all the luxuries of Zenith, dance halls, movie theaters, and roadhouses, and in a cynical superiority to people who were slow or tightwad. They cackled. "Oh, Pete, did I tell you what that dub of a cashier said when I came in late yesterday? Oh, it was perfectly priceless." "Oh, but wasn't T.D. stewed? Say, he was simply ossified. What did Gladys say to him? Think of the nerve of Bob Bixford trying to get us to come to his house. Say, the nerve of him! Can you beat it for nerve? Some nerve, I call it. Did you notice how Dottie was dancing? Gee, wasn't she the limit?" Babbitt was to be heard sonorously agreeing with the once hated Miss Mimi Sonntag that persons who let a night go by without dancing to jazz music were crabs, pikers, and poor fish, and he roared, "You bet!" when Mrs. Carrie Nork gurgled, "Don't you love to sit on the floor? It's so bohemian." He began to think extremely well of the bunch. When he mentioned his friends Sir Gerald Dork, Lord Whitcomb, William Washington Eathorne, and Chum Frink, he was proud of their condescending interest. He got so thoroughly in the jocund spirit that he didn't much mind seeing Tanis drooping against the shoulder of the youngest and milkiest of the young men, and he himself desired to hold Carrie Nork's pulpy hand, and dropped it only because Tanis looked angry. When he went home at 2 he was fully a member of the bunch, and all the week thereafter he was bound by the exceedingly strained conventions, the exceedingly wearing demands of their life of pleasure and freedom. He had to go to their parties. He was involved in the agitation when everybody telephoned to everybody else that she hadn't meant what she'd said when she'd said that. And anyway, why was Pete going around saying she'd said it? Never was a family more insistent on learning one another's movements than were the bunch. All of them volubly knew, or indignantly desired to know, where all the others had been every minute of the week. Babbitt found himself explaining to Carrie or Fulton Bemis just what he had been doing, that he should not have joined them till 10 o'clock, and apologizing for having gone to dinner with a business acquaintance. Every member of the Bunch was expected to telephone to every other member at least once a week. "Why haven't you called me up?" Babbitt was asked accusingly, not only by Tanis and Carrie, but presently by new ancient friends, Jenny and Captoni and Toots. If for a moment he had seen Tanis as withering and sentimental, he lost that impression at Carrie Nork's dance. Mrs. Nork had a huge house and a small husband. To her party came all of the Bunch, perhaps 35 of them when they were completely mobilized. Babbitt, under the name of Old Georgie, was now a pioneer of the Bunch, since each month it changed half its membership, and he who could recall the prehistoric days of a fortnight ago, before Mrs. Absalom, the food demonstrator, had gone to Indianapolis and Mac had got sore at Minnie, was a veritable leader and able to condescend to new Petes and Minnies and Gladyses. At Carrie's, Tanis did not have to work at being hostess. She was dignified and sure, a clear, fine figure in the black chiffon frock he had always loved, and in the wider spaces of the ugly house Babbitt was able to sit quietly with her. He repented of his first revulsion, mooned at her feet, and happily drove her home. Next day he bought a violent yellow tie to make himself young for her. He knew a little sadly that he could not make himself beautiful. He beheld himself as heavy, hinting of fatness. But he danced, he dressed, he chatted, to be as young as she was, as young as she seemed to be. 4. As all converts, whether to a religion, love, or gardening, find as by magic that though hitherto these hobbies have not seemed to exist, now the whole world is filled with their fury. So, once he was converted to dissipation, Babbitt discovered agreeable opportunities for it everywhere. He had a new view of his sporting neighbor, Sam Doppelbrau. The Doppelbraus were respectable people, industrious people, prosperous people, whose ideal of happiness was an eternal cabaret. Their life was dominated by suburban bacchanalia of alcohol, nicotine, gasoline, and kisses. They and their set worked capably all the week, and all week looked forward to Saturday night, when they would, as he expressed it, "throw a party." And the thrown party grew noisier and noisier up to Sunday dawn, and usually included an extremely rapid motor expedition to nowhere in particular. One evening when Tanis was at the theater, Babbitt found himself being lively with the Doppelbraus, pledging friendship with men whom he had for years privately denounced to Mrs. Babbitt as a rotten bunch of tin horns that I wouldn't go out with, rot if they were the last people on the earth. That evening he had sulkily come home and poked about the front of the house, chipping off the walk the ice clots, like fossil footprints, made by the steps of passers-by during the recent snow. Howard Littlefield came up snuffling. "Still a widower, George?" "Yep. Cold again tonight." "What do you hear from the wife?" "She's feeling fine, but her sister's still pretty sick." "Hey, better come in and have dinner with us tonight, George." "Oh, thanks. Have to go out." Suddenly he could not endure Littlefield's recitals of the more interesting statistics about totally uninteresting problems. He scraped at the walk and grunted. Sam Doppelbrau appeared. "Evening, Babbitt. Working hard?" "Yep. Little exercise." "Cold enough for you tonight?" "Well, just about." "Still a widower?" "Uh-huh." "Say, Babbitt, while she's away, I know you don't care much for booze fights, but the missus and I'd be awfully glad if you would come in some night. Think you could stand a good cocktail for once?" "Stand it, young fella? I bet old Uncle George can mix the best cocktail in these United States." "Hooray, that's the way to talk. Look here, there's some folks coming to the house tonight, Louetta Swanson and some other live ones, and I'm going to open up a bottle of pre-war gin, and maybe we'll dance a while. Why don't you drop in, jazz it up a little, just for a change?" "Well, what time they coming?" He was at the Sam Doppelbrau's at 9.